How's it going, everyone? Sethphir here, and we are back with another Tower of Fantasy video. Today we are going to be talking about relics. Relics are powerful combat activatable items that you can utilize to get the edge in terms of damage, and I'm going to explain to you why these things are so overpowered, because man do they pack a punch. We're going to go ahead and talk about every single relic in the game. I'm going to tell you what their use is and how good they are relatively based on my experience. And then we'll also brush it up with some projected what are going to be the best relic combos in the game when you do eventually end up getting the maximum star relics and everything upgraded. So let's go ahead and dive over to our Tower of Fantasy Index website, where we will check out a lot of the fine detailed info. So we're going to see exactly how much damage these things are doing and why you would want to use one over another. So let's go ahead and dive into that now. Alright, here we are on the Tower of Fantasy Index website. This is going to be a great place to check out the fine detailed information, and if you want to look at it all for yourself, a link in the description will be down below. Shout out to everyone involved in the project. So first, we're going to go ahead and talk about these relics. They, like we mentioned before, they are 2 equipable items. You can actually have a loadout set. You can have 3 different loadout sets. So you will be able to have about 6 of these items activated at a given time, but do keep in mind to switch between the loadout sets, you need a brief moment or reprieve from combat, and once you exit combat for 1 second, you can switch that loadout set, and then you can activate your additional relics on the other loadouts. So this is going to be something that is going to increase your DPS by a lot. They are very powerful, so let's go ahead and jump in here and start with the first SR relic. This is going to be the purple rarity, the Jetpack. The Jetpack has a lot of utility. It is basically, if you've ever played Genshin Impact, it is the glider and the venti wind draft that lifts you up into the air. It's that rolled into one. It's kind of an all-purpose thing. It's going to allow you to get around the world smoothly, and it does have a few charges and upgrades, things like its duration in which it recovers those charges, and the amount of charges it has, and how often you can use that jetpack. So this is going to be a very nice one to have. It is probably not something that you're going to level up first, because you're going to want to save your relic shards for combat relics that are going to allow you to increase your damage, but regardless, it is a very, very clean relic. Next, we're going to go ahead and jump into the Quantum Cloak. The Quantum Cloak is a very interesting item. It doesn't do too much in terms of player versus environment. So if you're thinking that you're going to sneak around like a rogue and assassinate a bunch of enemies, you can, but it's more of a roleplay item in that fashion. Wherever it does shine, however, is going to be in the Apex League, the 1 versus 1 battle. And somebody equipping this item can disappear from sight and launch a very large attack on you and get a strong opener. It is actually kind of obnoxious to deal with. I've seen several people use this item, and it can definitely give players a run for their money, especially if they're not expecting this or don't know how to handle this or counter this item. It is definitely going to be really cool to have that invisibility aspect going on. Next, we're going to jump into the Hovering Cannon. I tested this one quite a bit. It places these 2 missiles above your shoulders that supposedly shoot these frost rays that are supposed to do damage, but the cooldown is so long on this thing, and the attack damage is just not there. It doesn't do very much attack damage. It can freeze targets solid, so I thought about trying it in PvP, but it didn't really seem to connect very well, and in PvE it's even worse. I probably wouldn't consider this item very much at all, if any. The next one we have is going to be the Jetboard. The Jetboard is going to be a very nice item, utility, quality of life. Whenever you are on water or even on land, you can pull out the Jetboard and you will start to move really fast, but you get this slowed movement speed if you turn around too much. So you're basically, once you're set on a direction, you're set in that direction. This thing really accelerates in the water. If you are in the water, just think of it as having a mini boat that is just going to propel you across. You can get across the entire ocean with this thing. It does not stop. As long as you're in water, you're going to keep going. It's going to be great. There's also some weird utility where you can run into an enemy while you're on the wayboard, and it stuns them and does some damage, but mostly it's just for transportation. But this is definitely a very nice SR relic to have. Now we're going to jump into Magnetic Storm, and this is one of my personal favorite SR Relics, probably one of the better SR Relics. It is going to create an electrical tornado that's going to deal percentage of your attack every single second, and as you upgrade this thing, you are going to unlock 2 tornadoes, 3 tornadoes. The tornadoes are going to disorient the controls of enemies. It is a crazy item in PvE and also in PvP. In PvE, this is probably one of the highest damage relics that you can get. It's going to be a quick activate, and it's going to pop off and do tons of DPS for you. And in PvP, it also does that same thing, but with the added bonus of disorienting the enemy's controls. So backwards is going to be forward for them, left's going to be right, and it's going to be really hard for them to not just walk off of the platform and allow you to get free DPS, and maybe even get stuck in the water. All kinds of things. It's terrible if you get hit by these. You're pretty much forced to run away from this item in PvP, and it's definitely very, very, very good. So this is going to be a high priority on this item right here. Next, we're going to have Missile Barrage. This is also one of my favorite SR relics. It is going to activate 2 missile pods on your shoulders for about 8 seconds. It does get increased as you upgrade it, and the missiles will continuously pour out of this thing, homing in on your target and dealing a good amount of damage per hit. The strength in this weapon basically comes from the fact that it fires so many missiles, and if they don't have a shield activated, it will do a lot of damage. This is a good, solid, low cooldown SR relic to have in PvE combat, and it is very good in PvP combat. Oftentimes, people, when they see you activate this, will try to run away and disengage from you. It is that powerful, because if you sit there and trade blows with somebody with this Missile Barrage active, you're going to be losing your health bar really fast, and you're going to be like, what happened? Like, I have no idea what happened. Turns out Missile Pod 0 to 100 you, so that's going to be interesting there to have in PvP. But definitely a very strong item. I would recommend this one. Next, we're going to drop into Couant. Couant is a very interesting item. It is decent in PvE combat because it does provide a static damage boost when you proc it correctly. However, it is hard to proc. It will make a shield around you, and if somebody breaks that shield, you are going to trigger a mini stun as well as damage and increase your damage by 20% for a decent duration of time. This is a better item in PvP, in my opinion. In PvP, you can use it when the enemy engages on you. You can activate this, and it will mini-stun them, so you're going to get out of any combo they have, and you're also going to increase your damage and get a lot of other goodies from it, as well as reducing the attack speed of the person who broke that shield. So it's just an all-around good counter to people that are aggressive in melee combat range and are trying to spam attacks. So this is definitely a strong go-to in PvP combat. The next relic that we have is the Strange Cube. The Strange Cube doesn't really have any combat usage. However, it is used to solve a lot of puzzles throughout the world. If there's something that you need to push, like a ball or an object, odds are the Strange Cube is something that's going to trigger that for you. It has some okay upgrades, getting more charges and allowing you to restore some HP and different things like that, but it's really just a puzzle-solving relic for the most part. Now we have the Omnium Handcannon. This is also a puzzle-solving relic. What will happen when you use this, you're going to shoot this little gun, and it is going to extend a pillar across the point where you shot it at. So you'll use it to climb walls, you can use it to get to secrets, you can also shoot it straight on the ground, it can be used to block lasers, and it is just more or less a puzzle-solving tool within most of the dungeons. You can use it in PvP, but creating a pillar that you can climb and stand on is, cheesy at best, right? It's not providing you any combat ability or anything like that, so it's really just for solving puzzles. Next, we have the Lava Bomb. The Lava Bomb is a relic that you will throw. It is basically a grenade. It does a large amount of damage, as well as stunning targets and igniting them, catching them on fire, which is going to be nice to have. It will burn their endurance at higher ranks, so they're going to lose the ability to dodge, and that can be good as well. So it's okay. The only problem with this one is that it is very hard to target. It's clunky to use in a lot of degrees, but if the targeting gets a little bit better, it does have a low cooldown, and it can be a strong option for a quick burst and or stun utility if you need that within your group. It's probably better in PvE, but in PvP, it's going to be really difficult to hit somebody that's jumping all over the place with this lava bomb here. Next, we have the Cybernetic Arm. Cybernetic Arm is an interesting item. It is also kind of a puzzle-solving tool. Think of it as a grappling hook. It will allow you to get up to places that you normally couldn't reach. It also has the ability to suspend or lock a target in air if you hit them directly with it, and it will provide you bonuses like damage reduction, and targets are going to do less damage if they get hit by it. It's an okay item, but more of a puzzle-solving item, as we stated before. So if you see an up-high place and you can't get to it, and you can't use your jetpack, and it's hard to get up there, this might be the way to go for you. And finally, we have the last SR relic. This is going to be Magnetic Pulse. Magnetic Pulse is very powerful in PvP. It will interrupt people who are attacking you. You can use this while being attacked, and it will give you immunity to control effects for 5 seconds, which is very important in PvP, especially when people are spamming things like Coco Reader with the ice attacks and the knockups. You can have a window of opportunity to get in and close that gap and start locking them up instead. And as I did say, it kind of counters counters anybody hitting you currently. It will interrupt that, and so you can turn the tables. Like, once you're getting hit, you can start hitting them. It will also slow down their attack speed, and additionally later on it removes buffs from target, which can be okay if they have any sort of healing buffs on them. In terms of PvE combat, this relic is not that great. It just kind of has a mini bit of damage and a small power up, but probably nothing to write home about. So that's going to be it for the SR relics. Now we're going to jump into the SSR relics, which are going to be the very important ones. These are going to be used in a lot of speed run activities, as well as have some of the highest damage and buff potential of any item within the game. So the first one we're going to talk about is Colossus Arms. Colossus Arms is a fantastic relic. This relic does a lot of damage over time, and every time you swing with the Colossus Arms, you are going to launch missiles out when you upgrade it that are going to keep doing more and more damage, and as you upgrade it to its final form, it is going to last for a long duration of time. It does have a very big cooldown, but this is the go-to item in PvE combat for killing bosses quickly. If you ever need to kill a boss quickly or do something like the Frontier Clash, this is going to be your best option for speed running. Just keep in mind that that long cooldown will mean that you need to time it correctly and use it on pretty much bosses only, but it will be a very, very powerful tool in allowing you to deal damage in a small burst window. In terms of PvP, this item is super useless because when you don these Colossus Arms, you are very slow and you have to walk towards them. It's melee. They're just going to run away from you and laugh at you while you have these Colossus Arms on until they eventually run out, and they're going to come over and kick your butt because you're down a relic and you don't have the cooldown, right? So definitely don't make that mistake. Don't use that one in there. If you do see Colossus Arms in PvP, just do not fight them. Just run away, wait it out, and you're all good to go. The next item we have is the Omnium Shield. This is an interesting item. It will project a screen or a barrier in front of you that will absorb damage equal to a proportion of your maximum health. That does have some utility, like it's going to slow anybody who passes through the screen, and you're going to buff your allies' damage that pass through the screen. I could see this maybe being useful in group play if you're trying to stack all the relics and power up one particular player with a bunch of buffs so they can use a major cooldown. But other than that, it's kind of weird to work around in terms of PvE combat. Although maybe there's a niche scenario in a certain boss that this could be useful for if you really need to block ranged projectiles. And in PvP, again, this is kind of one of those, you put down this screen, okay, your opponent says, I'm just gonna go away for a little bit and not worry about that. I'm not gonna walk into it myself, so it's really not gonna add any value versus any intelligent player. The next item that we have is going to be the Type V armor. This is a very powerful SSR relic. In PvE combat, you will enter this Gundam and start piloting it. It has aimed bullet machine guns that come out of the top, as well as some missiles that you can call down and rain from above. Every time you attack with this thing, when you upgrade it, it's going to inflict this dot or burn effect, and its final attack will allow you, if you manage to get it to 5-star, you're going to channel flame in a giant open area, and it's going to burn everything around you. So this is a powerful, long cooldown PvE speed running tool, and you will see it in most high-end groups along with the Colossus Arms. Most likely you're going to be alternating cooldowns in order to take out bosses effectively so that you can reach certain timers and attain all the rewards for doing a run quickly. So this is very strong in PvE combat. In PvP, it's not as bad as the Colossus Arms since you can technically shoot, but the problem is that people just run circles around you, so you keep having to turn and try to shoot them, and they just ignore you for the most part. So it's all right, but not the best. It also kind of makes you a sitting duck for a long portion of time, so people will just start spamming range damage into you, and there's not much you can do about that. So definitely avoid that one for PvP. Next, we have the Spacetime Rift. The Spacetime Rift is a very interesting item. You're going to create this zone that's sort of a black hole, and it will suck everything into the center. If the enemies are caught inside of this, they're going to lose their ability to dodge if they're touching the ground, and it's also going to increase the damage dealt to them by 20%. I believe it also pulses damage constantly inside of the area, so it can do high DPS, and the final cooldown or star power of it will eliminate all healing done within the Spacetime Rift. So this is a very powerful PvP item. If you are caught in this item, you can combo it with a few combos and ultimates from other characters, and it can be very deadly. In terms of PvE combat, it is alright at best, but nothing to write home about. It can be a good grouping tool to pull everyone into a central location, but unless something calls for a healing reduction specifically, this is probably not going to be your go-to option. Next, we have Confinement. Confinement is a very powerful skill. You will place it on the ground, this sort of like orb, and it's going to pulse out energy in an area. It's going to do a lot of damage, and it's going to match your weapon element type. And if anybody enters this arena or tries to exit the arena, they're going to get stunned for 2 seconds. This is very, very good. As you upgrade it, this stun will be increased, allowing it to stun you for longer, and as well as increasing the damage and the frequency of the pulse DPS that comes from the center of it, and it will also launch targets into the air at its final stage. So this is a very disruptive ability. It casts a very wide net, so it can take up the entire arena in PvP and can be very deadly, especially with that stun if you get caught in like Shiro's ultimate discharge. Along with this confinement, you can pretty much just kiss your life goodbye. You'll be deleted instantly, so this is something dangerous to watch out for. In terms of PvE combat, it is also pretty strong. It has a high DPS value for a cooldown, and it will allow you to control targets in an area. It's not too bad, but you may want to consider some other stronger DPS options. Next, we have the drone. The drone is an interesting relic. It just sort of creates this little robot that follows you around on your shoulder, and it will start to ramp up damage reduction for you. In addition to that, as you upgrade it, you're going to get immunity to crowd control effects and a stacking damage bonus as well. And then finally, you will get the ability to convert 20% of damage dealt into HP. It sounds very good, but in reality, it's not the best. It can be alright in some situations. In terms of PvP, again, it has a giant tail, so when people see the drone, they just avoid you and they don't fight you. They run around until it's done. And in terms of PvE, it is alright buff, but there are better options out there to select from. Next, we have the Hologram Projector. This is a very, very cool SSR relic. It will project a hologram or an image of you that's going to recreate any weapon attacks you deal, dealing 50% of your damage. It lasts a decent amount of time, but does have a long cooldown. As you upgrade it, it's going to extend the duration and increase the amount of damage done by the hologram, as well as giving you the ability to switch places with the hologram, which will also remove any control effects that are on you, so it can be a very strong ability. I think once we get everything in the endgame and a strong weapon set, this could be one of the better SSR relics, but at the start of the game, do not expect this to do very much, but as we get towards later game and everything's fine-tuned, doing 100% DPS for a small window can be a very, very powerful tool. In terms of PVE combat, this is not as good because the hologram's position will be set and it's going to be unlikely that your opponent's going to willingly walk into all of the damage that this clone is doing, so it's not going to be the best. You might be able to trip them up a little bit with the switch position, but it's probably better options for PvP combat. And finally, we will talk about our final SSR relic as we wrap up this rather lengthy video. Alter Destiny. Alter Destiny is a very cool item. It's going to create a pocket dimension around you for 8 seconds. You're going to get immunity to hit stun, so you can't be interrupted, and you cannot die while you are inside of this item. It's basically useful for PvE. There are some situations where you could consider using this. The upgrades are going to allow you to recover HP while inside the field, as well as gain lifesteal. And finally, we will give you like increased lifesteal if you're lower on HP, so that can be alright. I could see this being useful in a group play setting where a boss is hard and doing a lot of damage, and as a healer you need to keep up, so you pop this for your team and it's going to stop them from dying and allow them to regenerate a lot of HP, so it could be a very powerful tool in PvE combat. In PvP combat, it is okay, but not the best at the end of the day. It does provide some life regeneration, but generally people are going to walk out of this zone and just ignore you until it's over, and that's pretty much going to be the story of what happens there. Alright, that's going to be it. That is going to cover every single SR relic and SSR relic. I hope that this kind of helped you base your decision on what you want to do. So if you're really looking for PvE combat, I would strongly recommend focusing on obtaining and upgrading the Colossus Arms and the Type V armor. Those are two major cooldown items that will be very, very powerful for you to get. And if you're looking for SR relics, the ones that will be a lot easier to get, I would definitely focus on Magnetic Storm and Missile Barrage. These are also very, very good. If you're looking for PvP combat, the Couant and Magnetic Pulse are going to be very strong options, along with Magnetic Storm and Missile Barrage once again. And if you really want to get spicy with some certain combos, you could try out Confinement or the Spacetime Rift. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the bell for more Tower of Fantasy content, and we will catch you in the next video.